Welcome, everyone, to my presentation, Building a Better News Future, Understanding the Importance of Credible Reporting and Building Trust Amongst Your Audience. Now, in today's presentation, we will examine why trust and credibility are important and some things you can do to reestablish and establish trust in the media. We will also examine real-life examples of news stories containing false information. Now, I want to start this presentation off with a question. Have you ever heard a rumor about someone around your school? Okay, hearing a lot of you say yes. Well, imagine if you later found out that that rumor just simply wasn't true. If you knew who started that rumor, would you believe anything else they say going forward? Okay, hearing a lot of mixed reactions. Some people saying yes, depending on the person, others saying no, not at all. Well, either way, once false information reaches a mass audience, or others in general, it can shatter the source's credibility. And this will make it difficult for anyone to believe anything else they say in the future. And this concept or idea of people spreading false information and not being seen as credible or trustworthy again is greatly impacting the news industry. Many journalists have written false stories and reported false information, both intentionally and unintentionally. But why is this a problem exactly? Why is it an issue when journalists spread false information, whether they meant to do it or not? Well, journalists are required to tell the truth. They're public service workers, if you think about it, right? They are responsible for reporting accurate information and sharing it with others. Now, unfortunately, one reason why Americans have lost trust in the media is the overwhelming amount of false information that has spread from the news industry to the masses. In a 2024 article entitled Americans Trust in Media Remains at Trend Low, and you can actually see the chart from the article on your screen right here. 36% of surveyors expressed their lack of trust in the media. In addition, 33% selected not very much when asked if they trust the media. Now, let's talk a little bit about trust and credibility from a scholarly perspective. Now, I will be using material from the book entitled An Integrated Approach to Communication Theory and Research, and I will be taking information from chapter 32, some of the main points from chapter 32. So, according to the research, in order for a source or someone's information to be deemed credible, it must undergo a process, if you will, right? So, credibility from an audience, according to this research, is determined by four things: message, source, channel, and recipient. Now, message is just simply what it sounds like. What are you saying and how are you saying it? So, let's just say, for example, you are a morning news reporter and you're at the scene of breaking news. Let's say it's a house fire near the University of Alabama, right? Well, you have to consider if it's a house fire near a major university or just anywhere where it's a lot of people, people are going to automatically tune in and listen to see what is going on. So imagine you're doing your live report from the field and you say, I just arrived to the scene. Officials just confirmed that one person was injured in the house fire. It's unclear what led up to this, but the person has been taken to the hospital. The Red Cross is on the scene to assist. And imagine you're saying all of those things and behind you there's a home that is fully engulfed in flames. That visual aid, as well as what you're saying and how you're saying, especially if you're saying it with urgency, can really play a big role in if people view you as credible or view your message as credible. Now, source. Who are you to the audience? Are you a reporter? Are you a blogger? Are you a newspaper writer? In this case, as the example I just mentioned, the scenario, you would be a morning news reporter. Now, channel. Think of this as how you get your news, right? Many of us, especially during this in this generation, get our information in our news from social media. Some of our grandparents or even parents get their information probably from local news stations or newspapers, even. Now, one thing I discovered as I was doing research on this topic is sometimes the channel and the source can play a role in credibility, right? So, take for example, Caitlin Collins in the top right of your screen. She actually attended the University of Alabama. She works at CNN as an anchor and reporter. She has her own show. And there may be some people who really like CNN. They watch CNN, they get all their information from CNN, right? Well, since Caitlin Collins work on CNN, they're more than likely going to probably view her as credible because of her association with the company. Now, on the other hand, Tucker Carlson at the bottom right, he used to have a television program on Fox News. You may have some people, excuse me, you may have some people that are more likely to believe Tucker Carlson because of their loyalty to Fox News. They may believe that Fox News have information that they can relate to better than CNN. Vice versa. May have others that may not believe Tucker Carlson, more than likely, and they will more than likely believe Caitlin Collins because of their loyalty to CNN. That's just something I kind of noticed. Now, recipient, simply what it sounds like. The person who is receiving the information. This could be a television viewer at home or reader. Now, I want to just briefly tell you about the four guiding principles of journalism from the Society of Professional Journalists. Now, Society of Professional Journalists is a professional organization that is dedicated to improving and protecting journalism across the nation. Now, you don't have to be a member of this organization, but they have a lot of great principles and ethics and information that you can always refer back to, especially if you're going to if you plan to have a future in journalism, because the information comes from a lot of seasoned media professionals. So just it's always good to have just, a good tool book or reference book as you are working on your journalism career. So the first principle will be seek truth and report it. A journalist must be ethical, honest, accurate, and fair when reporting and writing. Now, the site has a statement under this subheading that says journalists should be honest and courageous in gathering, reporting, and interpreting information. Now, here's one thing I want you to remember. There is no such thing as a dumb question when it comes to journalism. If you are confused about information, ask the source, ask for help, ask the subject for clarification. If you don't understand background information, do your research online or ask a professional or a person who is highly skilled in that area, or even ask a colleague or a news manager. Just never ever assume when you are gathering information. Now, minimizing harm. This is something that's very important. It's important to treat sources and subjects with respect and try not to put them in a predicament where their privacy is being violated. You also don't want to create any additional trust issues amongst the public. One thing you can do to minimize harm in certain situations is to blur the faces of people who did not give you permission to record them, especially children. Acting independently. Now, under this subheading online, there's a statement that says journalists should refuse gifts, favors, fees, free travel, and special treatment and avoid political and other outside activities that may compromise integrity or impartiality or may damage credibility. Now, an example of this could be, let's say, an athletics department at a university is under investigation, and some leaders within the program may give a journalist money or free tickets to a game under the table, of course, so they can leave out specific damaging information if they are assigned to report on the story. Let's say, it's a coach who has been accused of cheating or game fixing. He may try to bribe the journalist, but it's very important to not do that. Again, as we mentioned, journalists are public service workers and have a major responsibility to report accurate information to the public. And just always to remember, be accountable and transparent during your reporting process. An example of this would be a journalist mentioning in their story that they consistently tried to contact a source or a subject or someone associated with the story, but they did not receive a response back in time for the story. And it's just always good to do this also so you can look fair as a journalist, saying, hey, I did my due diligence. I tried to reach out to this person. I didn't get a response back. This is all the information I have to present to you right now. And be on the lookout for possible updates. So now that you all have a little information about credibility and spreading false information, let me share this is the part in the presentation where I will share with you what I like to call an honest mistake. And I will play the video and I will explain to you why I call this part an honest mistake.
News is in Owens Crossroads, where there's been a riot this evening at Brighter Path, a psychiatric residential treatment facility, and several arrests have been made. WAFF 48's Nick Ballinger joins us live at Brighter Path. Nick, a lot of members of law enforcement from all across Madison County have been out there. What exactly happened?
Yeah, Nolan, like you said, I'm here at Hamer Road in Owens Crossroads at the Brighter Path of Alabama facility, and a spokesperson with the Madison County Sheriff's Office tell me that 6 female juveniles have been arrested for inciting a riot here at this facility. Let me step out of the way so I can show you what's going on. Now, remember, this is a psychiatric facility for juveniles. They reopened this summer. They were formerly known as Sequel, and since then, there's been a gradual increase in violence. And I guess tonight was the tipping of the pot. It reached its boiling point.
Now, the reason why I call this an honest mistake is simply because the reporter and the anchor said the wrong name of the facility. So the correct name of the facility is Pathway of Madison County, but you clearly heard them say Brighter Path. Now, that was one of the old names of the facility, but as you just heard the reporter say that there even before they addressed it as Brighter Path, it was also called Sequel. So basically the facility has undergone different names. That happens, sometimes mistakes happen, and that's okay. We're human beings. But just be sure to address it or make the appropriate corrections going forward. Or if you have to, even issue a retraction statement on air or in your newspaper. Now, of course, you can see Pathway of Madison County facility ordered to shut down after riot breaks out. The editors online, the website editors did go back and change this online. So this is the correct name that you see, Pathway of Madison County. Now, while some people make mistakes, some journalists make an honest mistake, there are journalists who are very much so intentional about not being honest, right? So an example of this would be Jason Blair. Now, in the early 2000s, Jason Blair was a news reporter for the New York Times, and it was discovered in 2003 that he fabricated and plagiarized a lot of stories. He made up a lot of details in stories. This cast a dark shadow over the New York Times and the journalism industry. Eventually, Blair had to resign. Now, you may be asking yourself, why would he do something like this? Why would he make such a terrible decision? Well, he actually answered that question 10 years later after the scandal, and here's what he says.
Early on in the process, that people ask me why I did it, and there isn't an easy answer to why. What it really was for me was trying to survive without asking help when I knew I was losing my mind, but I still wanted to do my job. And at the beginning, it became cutting a corner here so I could do the job, even though I'm falling apart. I felt very sick and I didn't know what it was. And what now I know is very clearly, let's say, anxiety.
So as you just heard, Jason Blair admitted to fabricating stories because he was under a lot of pressure. Everyone, I want you to keep in mind that he was 24 years old at the time that he was working at the New York Times. Heavy responsibility, and also at that time he was in rehab for some substance abuse and he has severe mental health issues. And yes, although this was a dark moment for Blair and for the New York Times and the journalism industry, he was able to recoup and learn from his mistakes. And now he's a successful author who travels to different universities and talk about the importance of having journalistic integrity and credibility. Now, in conclusion, just remember these 4 things. Remember your value as a journalist. Remember why you became a journalist and uphold those ethical standards. Remember your obligation to the community by telling them the truth. Acknowledge any mistakes that you make. Be transparent about your reporting process. And also always remember, ask for help if you need it. Your physical and mental health is very important, and we want you to take care of yourself as you pursue a career in the journalism industry. Here are the references for this PowerPoint. I really hope you all enjoyed my presentation. Thank you so much.